You're listening to Fish Out of Water, the podcast where feeling out of place becomes the start of something new. Dive in with us. Let's explore stories, insights, and real conversations that help you swim forward with purpose. Welcome to Fish Out of Water, episode 4, where we're going to talk about stagnant pools or safe waters.
So how did we get here so far? We've had a few episodes before this, right? So we talked about owning your wiring, um, what makes you tick, what's your core temperament, how do you function in that in a leadership or an everyday role? And we also talked about finding your voice, right? So we've kind of walked around the pond a little bit. So today I think we're going to dive in a little bit and talk about the pond. Is that pond that you're in actually a safe space um, that's helping your growth? So sometimes, the most comfortable relationships, routines, communities even are actually keeping us from growing, right? So the spaces that we tend to find ourselves in, a lot of us are find ourselves in this place that, we want to be safe. There's nothing wrong with safe spaces. Safe spaces are good for us. It allows us to um, think about, you know, who we are, what are we dealing with, especially in hard situations. It gives us a place to kind of like decompress, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
there's this theory out there called the self-verification theory. And it posits that individuals strive to confirm their self-views, whether it's positive or negative, um, to maintain this idea of predictability in social interactions, right? So if to break it down into a little bit simpler terms is that the fundamental desire, it's a fundamental desire to be seen by others the way that we see ourselves, right? And so when we're creating these safe spaces around us, that is kind of one of the things that we don't think about, but we actually look for in terms of who we're bringing into our safe space. Do you understand what I'm talking about this theory?
Yeah. I think I know that when I've done this kind of stuff, when we're teaching this, we're looking at the elements of the autonomic version of the ego,
Yeah,
not just the ego. Like I had
right.
a colleague of mine who was fired recent. Well, he wasn't fired. He ended up having to quit the job, but he had a very negative interaction with a boss who said, "It's very clear you have an ego," but he didn't know what to do with it. The boss, the leader, didn't
Hmm.
know how to invite, because it wasn't an autonomic response. It was just his processing. And
Hmm.
I think this self-verification theory is what trips a lot of people up
Yeah,
because we want safety and security. It's the most natural inclination of every human being
yeah,
is to be
absolutely.
safe, is to have
Absolutely.
security.
Yeah.
So I love it.
So I'll give you a story from my own life. I lived in Japan for a couple of years, as you know. And Japan is very different than I think what a lot of Westerners think. We have this idea that it's full of technology that's way more advanced than what we have, and so on. And at the time, it was not the case. What I did learn while I was there is that from a cultural perspective, they have a different way of looking at the world, if you will. So here in the Western world, we very much celebrate being an individual, sticking out, shining, amongst the crowd, being that shining star or whatever, something that a lot of us may strive for. In Japan, their cultural mentality is more of the idea of it's a group mentality. So they have this saying, that the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. With um and so when I got there and learned a bit more about this culture and so on, I found myself in a bit of a quandary because I very much so as a female, as a Westerner, as a non-visible, non-white person in that I'm not just white, the color of my skin. There was a lot of things I didn't fit into. And so the people that I, from an autonomical perspective, brought into my inner circle while I was there tended to be Western thinking folks, even from the Japanese standpoint, for
Mm.
those Japanese people that I came across who had traveled, because that was my safe space. And when I look back on the time, one of the few regrets that I have, that I didn't take advantage of learning more. The language, there was still lots more to learn about the culture and traditions and so on. I was there for 2 years. Um, but that safe space that I had created around myself really had become a place of a certain level, at least, of a bit of stagnation,
Mm.
right? And so, you know, I guess the question that we want to address here and ask is, are you receiving affirmation that anchors your evolution? These are big words here for some folks. But are you receiving, the backup that you need, the support that you need to help you evolve, to help you grow? Or is the support or the feedback that you're getting actually helping you avoid that expansion?
Lisa, you shared something in one of our earlier episodes talking about the pursuit of adventure in your life and how you have a tendency to choose the hardest thing that's in front of you, good or bad. I'm not debating
Yeah, yeah.
the way in which or the why, but I think that there is this a more common reality is for us to choose the safer option, the less
Uh-huh.
intrusive,
Absolutely.
the less abrasive. And so when I think through our the tools and why did we lean towards these specific tools? There are so many different tools when we talk about assessment, the human condition, and psychology, but why these ones? And for me, familiarity. I mean, I've been working with the what we have now redefined as the relational assessment.
Hmm.
I've been working with this for almost 30 years. And it has been an extraordinarily interesting process to see person after person after person respond similarly in their pursuit of the need for that verification.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that when we're looking at, we talked about community in the last episode, when we're looking to build powerful communities, we have to be able to address the other as well as ourselves. We
Yes,
have to
absolutely.
find
Hmm.
safety by creating safety
Yeah.
for others.
Yeah.
And and the powerful part, I think, comes when we lean towards not putting a whole bunch of the same kind of people in the room.
Yeah. It's a challenge because it's not, yeah, as we've already said more than once, it's not your natural inclination to do that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's this thing that I've seen, I'm not going to take any credit for this, like what's called the growth gauge, okay?
Mm.
Um, but as I relate it to coaching, um, to address what you just described in terms of the things that we run into, the snares that we run into, and so on, is that one of the things that coaching brings to the table as a tool is this idea of mindfulness.
Mm.
And call it what you want. People like associate mindfulness with meditation. Other people is just, being in the moment. And for coaching, that's really what mindfulness is about, being in the moment, is about recognizing that things are happening around you, you're having interactions with people. What is happening? How are you feeling? What are the thoughts that are evoked when you're around certain people? Is it a place of protectiveness? Is this a place of of encouragement. So in the past I might have used the word challenge, but really it's more about encouragement. There might be a little bit of abrasiveness because it's not going with the grain of where you're going right now, but it's asking you, the interaction is asking you to question or weigh what is being said or asked. Um,
Mhm.
so with this idea of mindfulness, the course that we've developed, Unshakable You, is designed in such a way to help you to um, integrate that into your everyday life. The idea of like, okay, I know myself, I'm getting to know myself better and better. A lot of us do things on the fly and we know certain things, but at our core, when things are not stressful, um, we're one way, but at another time when things are stressful, we operate in other ways because, we're going to the toolbox that we know. And so Unshakable really helps to ground you in the core of who you are, and helps you to remember to be mindful as
Mhm.
much as possible, right?
I think that the the one element that we miss, and as I've observed many kind of different coaching environments and spaces, is, well, actually, you know what? To be fair, I experienced this yesterday. I joined a mentoring program because I'm making a pivot career-wise. And although I'm very competent in many areas, I'm not competent in the industry that I'm trying to move towards, just in general when we talk about academics or post-secondary education. It's just not a field that I fully know. And so I joined a mentoring conversation, and I came away from it, and it was very, very, very directive, not adaptive.
Hmm.
I needed it to be adaptive because I'm going to be pivoting consistently throughout this process, trying to not adjust me, but to adjust the presentation of me.
Hmm.
And to ensure that I find the right location is going to, I need to be able to say, no, this is what I'm really good at.
Hmm.
And this is the space I think I might fit best
Yeah.
in. Please advise. And if they say that's not going to be a good fit, okay, no problem. Let's find an alternative industry, because I'm not going to, at this phase of my life, become less just a fit.
Hmm.
And that, I think, is one of our themes throughout, is when we talk about being empowered, it's not in, like, the empowerment that you need to achieve. Need is a word I wish for everyone to achieve,
Yeah.
is when you authentically know what you can do, you don't need to shrink.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
it doesn't
Be
mean you're the loudest voice in the room.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you need to be the biggest personality in the room.
No, I mean, even it's something we haven't talked about so far, and I know we will in the future, is there's this idea of quiet leadership. Um, and
Mm,
sometimes I really hesitate at leadership because not that the word is wrong, but I think a lot of it, when you hear the word leadership, it always makes you think about work, but the corporate world and so on. But like even in our everyday lives, I don't know about you, but in my inner circle, there are people who tend to lead certain types of activities and interactions versus others. But some of those folks who are the quieter ones, um, their voice, is very loud for me because, um, there's a lot of thought-provoking essence to the things that they say. And so when we're talking about these safe spaces, and what you were just mentioning too is that, we have these strengths and gaps of who we
hmm
are. And
hmm
so as much as we're saying like you don't need to fit in, like there is an element of fitting because, where my gaps are, as someone who wants to grow and evolve, I want to find people who are going to fill in those gaps and speak
hmm
the things where I wouldn't think of those things because
Yes.
my worldview is my worldview, but that's not necessarily your worldview, i.e., your reality either. So,
hmm
you know, when we're talking about say going back to this idea of safe spaces is, you know, are you in this stagnant pool where everybody around you is just saying what you expect them to say?
Hmm.
I was going to say it differently. That was the little bit of hesitation there. But, are is everyone around you kind of always saying what you expect them to say, as opposed
Hmm.
to flipping a question that really makes you stop and pause and be in that mindful space? Um,
Hmm.
if the answer is yes, everyone's responding in a way that I'm expecting to, I would encourage you to really evaluate um, the value that those relationships have in your growth process. So I'm not saying you need to get rid of these people out of your life or anything. That is
No,
not what is being
not at
said
all.
here.
No, not at all.
But, if you're trying to go after something new, um,
Hmm.
who's helping you to see the stuff that you wouldn't see on your own? Who
Hmm.
is helping you to expand your perspective, your way of seeing things? Um, because that is what's going to help you grow more than the people patting you on the back or like, oh man, you're doing a great job. Look at all that you're
Hmm.
accomplishing. So, this, one of the things that I learned about this was actually from you when you introduced Gary Chapman's love languages to me. Do you remember
Hmm.
that?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it has been, I think it was like one of the very first things that I kind of got
Yeah,
attached to. And I was able to just genuinely recognize, oh, I really want to be verbally encouraged. I want to be told that I'm good. I mean, it comes out of a childhood with neurodivergency where I was criticized quite a bit. And so then I kind of went, well, the safe relationships I'm going to be in will be the relationships that verbally encourage me versus
hmm,
verbally disparage or discourage me. And it's always been a really big green flag in my life when I find somebody that's willing to say, hey, you did a great job there. Thanks for helping out. Dot, dot, dot. And it can be any form of it. And I think that when we looked through the context of love, our culture today misrepresents the authenticity of love.
yeah,
I heard it from another speaker at one point, and the idea that I love my wife, I love my job, and I love tacos. These are
in
not the same
Greek.
loves,
I was gonna say in Greek, those would all be different words.
right? And so then the what does it mean if we just simplify something down to its most common context without actually getting to the root of it? And so I think that when we talked about empowerment, we talked about what does it mean to more for us to learn how to more easily see the affectionate perspective or the relational connection when we are trying to surround ourselves with people that are different than us.
Yeah. And this
Because
is where, sorry, I'm totally cutting
no,
you
no, no,
off there.
please
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Like, this is where supportive action really becomes critical because true support isn't just about presence. Like, my love language is quality time, is that, spend time with me, chat with me, let's go for coffee or whatever. That is how I receive love. Um, but when you're talking about growth and feeling empowered, it's the participation in your becoming of whatever that
Hmm.
is. What are they actually doing to help you move to whatever that next step is?
Hmm. And so in our assessment, we shifted quality time to intentional presence. And
Yeah.
this was something we weighed really, really quite heavily because we wanted there to be a leadership component, a word that we're still somewhat unsettled about, but we wanted there to be something that was beyond the personal,
Hmm.
beyond just the relationship.
Yeah.
But how do I show up intentionally for you so that there is that sense of safety, sense of security that I want you to be so empowered that you're bringing your strengths into whatever
Mm-hmm.
conversation, whatever project that you and I are partnering on, such as the cohorts, such as all of these wonderful little ideas that we've got kind of cooking under the hood, so to speak, and that I want you to be at your best.
Yeah.
So I have listened to that, and now I'm gonna like, even though it's a struggle for me, I don't tend to intentionally show up easily.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have to focus on that.
Yeah.
And I think that as we talk about coaching, we want people to understand what other people need because it isn't always about you.
That's right.
It needs to become about the community
Mm-hmm.
and the confidence in saying, "Hey, Lisa, I'm in encouraging words and I really like to hear that."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you know that, all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you start showing up that way in my life as well.
If I'm truly listening and, being
Yeah.
intentionally present. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which becomes the linchpin for authentic community.
Mm-hmm.
Are the people that are around you listening or are they just placating?
Yeah.
And this is the title of our podcast, Safe Waters, Stagnant Pools. Are you trapped or stuck or snared in a community that's just giving you what you need, air quotes, versus pushing you forward, taking you to a space where your strengths are going to be exemplified rather than only your needs?
Yeah. Um, One of the things that, when I was preparing for this conversation, um, there's something called the mirror test versus the window test. And just to piggyback on what you're saying, who are the people in your life that are like a mirror? They give you back what you want or what they know of you from the past
Mm,
versus the window tests that see you, but see through you to where you could be or are trying to go, right? And like it's a simple analogy, but helps you hold some weight to, yeah, because our family is typically, for me, typically they pass the mirror test, but when the window test comes on, there's much like fewer of them that actually pass that window test of seeing me beyond who they've always known me to be, right? So, I mean, that's something that I encourage everyone to think about when we're talking about being in a safe place versus being in a stagnant place.
mm.
Um, and the second question that I would also probably encourage people is what kind of support are you asking for? Do you just want the comfort or do you want clarity? Do you want something helping you to see things from a different perspective? If you want comfort, there's no judgment here for that.
No, not at
But,
all.
with the understanding that, people who use coaching and so on generally are people who are wanting to see things from a broader perspective and not just
Hmm.
a smaller perspective. And but there are people who want to stay comfortable and just live life and so on. That's okay. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. Um, so, as we wrap up here today, because I think I always have more to say at the end than at the beginning, because it's like we've warmed up in the conversation and I'm ready to go down like another pathway here. But let's wrap this up. If something got stirred up in you today, like don't panic. It's a process. It's all food for thought. And discomfort isn't rejection and it's not judgment where we're concerned. It's about you are changing. You are starting to see things from a different perspective than where you were, 20 minutes ago or whatever. And
Hmm.
so we're excited to be on this journey with you as you grow and just want to encourage you that if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Please feel free to leave comments as well. Thank you so much for joining us today on Fish Out of Water, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great day.
Have an amazing week, Gabe, everyone. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Brett.